Welcome back to the Malaysia Money Matters Show. It's the 13th of March, 2025. Let's get right into it, shall we? The Malaysian company news today. Unpack what's been happening.
Oh, it's been a busy week, hasn't it? Lots of companies making moves, both domestically and internationally.
Absolutely. Let's kick things off with Bermaz Auto. Their profits, well, they've taken a hit, dropping to a 3-year low. Ouch, right. It seems those Chinese automakers are really starting to flex their muscles, snatching up market share left and right.
Yeah, and it's not just about Bermaz, is it? You have to look at the bigger picture. The entire Malaysian automotive market's bracing for a bit of a slowdown this year. The Malaysian Automotive Association, they're projecting sales to drop to 780,000 units. That's significant, especially when you think back to the record highs we saw in 2024.
Yeah, that's quite a shift. So the question is, what can Bermaz Auto do? Should they try to compete on price? Or maybe focus on, I don't know, niche markets, like those premium SUVs where the Chinese brands haven't really made a dent yet?
That's a good question. I mean, they could also double down on, after-sales service. That's something Malaysian consumers really value. It'll be really interesting to see what strategy they decide to pursue.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to Critical Holdings. They're having a much better week, let me tell you. They just snagged 2 huge engineering contracts worth almost RM85 million. One for get this, a supercenter factory in Penang, and the other for a data center in Cyberjaya. This brings their order book to a cool RM280 million. Not bad at all, right?
This is a great illustration, isn't it, of the continued growth in Malaysia's data center sector. We've been seeing a lot of investment in this area lately, which is really encouraging, I think, for the digital economy.
Absolutely. And speaking of exciting developments, chip design firm SkyeChip. They're aiming for a Billion-Ringgit IPO, hoping to capitalize on Malaysia's semiconductor push, especially after that recent deal with SoftBank's ARM Holdings.
This IPO could be, I think, a real turning point for Malaysia's, semiconductor ambitions. If they can attract significant investment and, what's important, cultivate homegrown chip design capabilities, it would really put Malaysia on the map as a serious player in the global semiconductor landscape.
Now, while some companies are focused on domestic growth, IGM Corp is, well, they're making waves internationally with their latest move. They just bought a historic building in London's financial district, a cool $72.5 million. Talk about a statement of confidence in the London real estate market, huh?
Yeah, this is a smart move by IGM Corp, I think. Diversifying their investments geographically spreads risk and allows them to tap into new markets. It's a strategy we're seeing more and more Malaysian companies adopt as they look beyond domestic borders for growth opportunities. Makes sense, really.
Shifting gears a little bit here, the Lim family has been busy buying up Genting shares after, well, a bit of a slump recently. Analysts seem to think it's a vote of confidence in the company, but the question is, will minority investors follow their lead? What do you think?
Well, the Lim family's move certainly injects some optimism, doesn't it? I mean, it's a positive sign. But we really need to see if this triggers, a broader market response. Will those minority investors share the same confidence? I guess only time will tell.
Let's talk about MCE Holdings for a minute. They won a mechatronics contract, so they'll be supplying components that kind of blend mechanical and electronic systems, a growing trend in the auto industry. And on top of that, they formed a joint venture to expand into, well, non-automotive products. So they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
It's a really savvy move, I think, by, broadening their product portfolio and integrating themselves into that global supply chain. They strengthen their position and become less reliant on any single market.
And the data center wins keep coming. MN Holdings just secured this is a big one, a RM168.9 million ball-end contract to build a high-voltage substation. This is for a U.S. data center operator, bringing their order book to almost a billion ringgit. A billion.
This really reinforces, what we were talking about earlier, about that data center boom in Malaysia. It's attracting serious investment, generating jobs, and, of course, bolstering the country's digital infrastructure. It's a sector, I think, with just huge growth potential.
Absolutely. Now, not all the news is rosy, unfortunately. PNB, they had to come out and clarify a RM 1.1 billion investment in Sapura Energy. They insist it's not a bailout. Instead, they're calling it a strategic investment to prevent the company's collapse and to protect local jobs and vendors.
The situation really highlights, doesn't it, those complexities of government intervention in the market. It's a high-stakes gamble, trying to keep this crucial oil and gas player afloat. And whether it's going to be successful, well, that remains to be seen.
Fingers crossed. Okay, Pekka Group, they're expanding their manufacturing capacity. They're acquiring land in Rawang to build a new facility. Looks like they're anticipating strong future demand.
This land acquisition, it's a really positive indicator, I think, of their confidence in the Malaysian manufacturing sector. I mean, they're increasing their production capacity, right? That suggests they're anticipating continued growth, continued demand for their products.
Yeah, that's a good sign. And to wrap up our Malaysian company news, Perdana Petroleum. They just landed a new contract with Shell. They're sending 2 of their accommodation work barges to Sarawak to support Shell's offshore operations. The good times seem to be rolling for Perdana.
This is another win, isn't it, for Perdana Petroleum? It really reaffirms the strength and the resilience of the Malaysian oil and gas services sector. Even with all the global uncertainties, companies like Perdana are, securing those contracts and contributing to the economy.
Wow, that was quite a bit to cover. What do you think? What are your thoughts? What stands out to you from all the Malaysian company news we just went through?
I've got to say, those data center investments, those are definitely something to keep an eye on. It seems to be, a consistent bright spot in the Malaysian economy, attracting investment and driving technological advancement.
I'm with you on that one. Now, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's turn our attention to the international and political arena. Things are getting a little heated over there, wouldn't you say? Trump's tariffs are sparking fears of a full-blown global trade war.
Yeah, the U.S. imposing tariffs on steel and aluminum imports has really rattled the markets, and the EU retaliating. Well, that just adds fuel to the fire, doesn't it? Even the possibility of a U.S. recession is enough to make people nervous.
And what does all this mean for Malaysia specifically?
Well, if this trade war does escalate, we could see, reduced demand for Malaysian products,
Yeah.
especially in those key export markets like the US and the EU. This could have a ripple effect on various industries, couldn't it? Manufacturing, agriculture, even tourism.
And just to make matters worse, Goldman Sachs is predicting wider U.S. credit spreads. Can you explain what that means for those of us who aren't, financial experts?
Well, wider credit spreads basically suggest that borrowing costs are likely to go up for U.S. companies. This could stifle investment, hinder growth, and potentially have a knock-on effect on other economies, leading to a global slowdown, potentially.
So it's not just a U.S. problem, it's a global concern. What happens in one part of the world can quickly impact, well, everyone else, can't it?
Precisely. We live in a very interconnected world, and economic shocks, well, they can travel. Even Singapore, a nation heavily reliant on global trade, is sounding the alarm. They're warning about a potential tariff cascade.
So they're worried that Trump's protectionist policies could set a dangerous precedent, encouraging other countries to follow suit and impose their own tariffs. This could create a sort of domino effect, couldn't it? Disrupting global supply chains and ultimately harming economic growth on a global scale.
Exactly. Singapore's concerns shouldn't be taken lightly. They're a major global trade hub, incredibly sensitive to any shifts in those global trade patterns. Their warning serves as a reminder, I think, of the potential for widespread economic damage if this trade war continues to escalate.
And just to add to the mix, Japan is grappling with persistent wholesale inflation. This has led to speculation that the Bank of Japan might raise interest rates soon. Could that have an impact on Malaysia, do you think?
It's certainly a possibility when you have changes in interest rates in those major economies, like Japan. It can influence capital flows and currency valuations. This, in turn, could impact monetary policy in other countries, including Malaysia. So yeah, Bank Negara will need to keep a close eye on these developments for sure.
It seems like there are challenges and uncertainties everywhere we look. Even the Eurozone is feeling the pressure. Christine Lagarde, the president of the European Central Bank, she's warning about inflation volatility. Fueled by trade wars, increased defense spending, and of course, the ongoing threat of climate change.
Yeah, these global headwinds, they present a complex set of challenges, don't they? Policymakers in Malaysia are going to need to navigate these very carefully, finding the right balance between, I guess, mitigating those risks and seizing opportunities for growth and development. It's going to be crucial for maintaining economic stability, that's for sure.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. What would you say are the key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the most important thing really is to stay informed. The world is in constant flux, isn't it? Being aware of the latest trends, both locally and globally, it's essential for making informed financial decisions.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, especially in today's dynamic and, let's face it, often unpredictable world. Well, that brings us to the end of our show for today. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? From the ups and downs of those Malaysian companies to the threat of, well, a potential global trade war.
We've covered a lot of ground today, and I hope our listeners are feeling a little more informed, a little more prepared to navigate the complexities of, well, of the Malaysian market and the global economy as a whole.
And don't forget to subscribe to the Malaysia Money Matters podcast for more insights like these. We'll be back again tomorrow with another episode, bringing you the latest news, the latest developments to help you stay ahead of the game. Thanks for joining us. Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you would like a deeper dive into all the investment opportunities from today's news, subscribe to my newsletter at moneymatters.substack.com. I will be sharing a deeper analysis of the key investment opportunities from today's news, including what makes these opportunities stand out and how they fit into the broader market trends. By subscribing to the Malaysia Money Matters newsletter, you will also get exclusive insights on my watch list and portfolio and fundamental reports on Malaysian listed companies.